what I'd like to do is talk about why Agile, and is what he was saying. Many times how many of you are using Agile already? Or in a place we go Agile? How many of you are not doing Agile, but in your place, the word Agile is used all the time? A few of you as well? Okay. So one of the things that, there are many things that we can cover when we talk about why Agile and all those things. I'd like to cover some of the themes that we could do in terms of introducing not Agile, but agility into non-Agile organizations. Because most of us work in organizations that already exist, they're already operating. They have probably operating for a number of years. And introducing something new to an organization or to the organization like Agile can be difficult. How many of you have been in failed Agile adoptions? Or adoptions are started and then it went after a while? Okay. It can be very difficult. Okay. So I'd like to talk about some of the things that we need to be aware. I think we should be aware when we try to introduce Agile. Okay. Big difference between the word Agile and agility. Okay. I think someone, Carl Skolden, said the other day in a conference, he was talking about that agility is the strategy we're looking for. We need to achieve business agility. Agile is a tactic for now. It's one way of doing it, or probably the most popular way of doing it, but it should change over time, what we're trying to do. Okay? But what we're really looking is business agility. We talk about organizations. What is an organization? Anyone? It's perhaps the owner organization. Okay, I think more than the owner. What we talked about organizations is having a collective of people with different expertise, different experiences, trying to achieve something hopefully together. Yeah. And the typical thing we try to do is to turn some ideas into something of value. Value could be money, it could be reputation, it could be anything, yeah? But in some ways, no one forces us to be part of an organization, yeah? But most of us, if we were working on our own, we couldn't do the things that we want to do. So I would just say organization is just looking from a human perspective, it's just a collective of people trying to do something together, better or worse. And this in particular has been really true since industrialization, when we moved away from the sort of like craftsmanship and artisan world, and we went into the industrial production and manufacturing. Yeah, that's the first time in our history that we really managed to do this thing about producing things at scale. Yeah, so there is a guy called Peter Drucker. Gonna get there. Who is one of the gurus of management. And what he said is that on the 20th century was the century of manufacturing. And if you think about the early days of manufacturing, for example, like the Ford and the Model T, yeah? And you compare it to the end of the century, when we have all these roboticized, very efficient plants. We achieved a 50 times increase in efficiency and productivity and so on in manufacturing. So Peter Drucker did a challenge for us, which said, sort of like in this 21st century, can we achieve another 50 times increase in productivity, but in the knowledge industry, which is what we do with IT and all the creative industries. Okay, we are 15, 16 years in, so potentially we are starting. Our industry, IT, is relatively young still. So what we don't know, probably none of us know yet, is we cannot imagine what we might be doing in 100 years, well, 90 years time or so. Yeah. When you if you had asked Henry Ford what the future of car manufacturing will be 100 years later, he probably wouldn't believe us. Yeah. So that's a challenge for us. Can we achieve that? We did it in manufacturing. Can we do it in IT or knowledge work? One thing to say is that because we did it in manufacturing, it has been so popular and successful. One of the problems that we have in the knowledge industry, in IT, is that we are copying what we did there. We have copied the management practices, we have copied some of the rules of thumbs, the ways that we think, the principles that we apply. Unfortunately, it's a different kind of business domain. We are not producing things. Yeah? We are much more, what we're doing in knowledge world is much more complex. So there is some problems in doing what we're doing. But, you know, we'll see where we go. What I will say is, where are we now in IT? I would postulate that we are still in that Model T phase of IT. We have done lots of IT, lots of products. There are some great advances in what we've done, but we're still producing those sort of like clunky, bloated products many times. Bigger products than we should, with lots of features that we shouldn't have, that have lots of defects, lots of maintenance to be done. Yeah? We're not very reliable and predictable in what we're doing. We cannot really control or forecast our environments too well, what we're trying to do. And probably we're doing it by ineffective organizations. Anybody will agree with that statement? Just one? A few nods, but no hands, okay. All right, okay. So the things that we could do better. I mean, I'll try to to give you some evidence of why I'm saying this. Are you familiar with the Standish Group? Standish Group is a business sort of like analytics company. Back in 2002, they produced something called the Chaos Report. Anybody has read that? No? Okay. So they did they produced the Chaos Report every other year or so. And the one in 2002, I'm using that because it's before we did Agile, really. They look at projects that have been successfully delivered and completed, and they found out that when you look at the features and how much the features delivered were used, 45% of the features were actually never used. And that feels like a terrible waste of money, time, talent, effort, you know, sweat and tears people will do. Even worse, that those 45 features that no one is, 45% of the features that no one uses have to be maintained and supported and so on. Then they found out that another 19% was rarely used, basically didn't justify the expense. And only about a third were used all the time, frequently, occasionally. Okay? So if you look at that, we're talking about being wasteful and clunky products. If we believe that sort of features, and we'll do the example, for example, you can Microsoft Office. How many features are there that we don't use, but they are there? Yeah. So you look at that. We can say, look, we could probably do better. We could do linear products. We could do products that have less features in them, but more attuned, more fitter to the need of our customers. Yeah? Can we do it? How can we do this? How can we avoid falling in this trap of delivering this kind of products? Because most of these projects will cost more many times than the money that they generate, the value they generate. Or we could actually find what is in that green zone as soon as possible and deliver it, focus on that value and try to deliver it as soon as possible to avoid delivering products that are not, the features that are not used, and instead move to do the next feature, the next product. Okay? So by doing mostly traditional ways, we ended up there. Yeah? Interestingly, in the last few years, there have been an update of this, and the numbers haven't really changed, even if we are doing Agile all the time. There is one caveat there, is that when you actually break the products, these projects, in large projects or small projects, the ones that deliver frequently, small pieces of delivery, actually are much more successful. So we're getting the evidence that the small projects, small deliveries, frequent deliveries are becoming much more successful than the traditional ones. Okay? The other side is that we run very ineffective organizations. When you think about, if you think about when we go, for example, to the doctor, yeah, we have, you feel like you have a pain. You go to the doctor, you have to wait, make an appointment, perhaps wait. Then you go to the actual GP surgery, you have to wait. You see the doctor for 10 minutes, who may refer you to a specialist, who will then send you, you have to wait for the appointment to happen. Then you go and see the specialist, they do a scan, you wait 6 weeks. At this time, you're already panicking, yeah? Then you wait for the scan. You have to have another appointment to just tell you, yeah, it's okay, yeah, and so on. It can take ages to go through that process, but the actual activity may only be a few minutes or a few hours, yeah? In IT, we have the same problem many times. If you really track what's happening to the projects, most of these projects and most of the work that we do is most of the time just waiting in some queue. Does it feel familiar? We are busy. We are probably, doing far too much work. But if you look at the projects, they are most of the time just waiting somewhere, or they are, they're just no one is actually doing work on them. So when we look at that and we compare the actual active time, so that green step, yeah, compared to the total time that it takes for us to produce projects, we get a percentage, which is what we call the flow efficiency or the business efficiency and so on. Who thinks that we might be running at, say, above 80%? Hands up. No? Okay. Who thinks we will do 60 to 80% efficient? No one? Okay, there one. 40 to 60? A few more hands. 20 to 40? A few other hands. Less than 20? Okay, I think it's about, this is probably the most popular one. There have been people that have been measuring this, and they look at things like 1 to 5. Yeah? So if that's true in your organization or our organizations, that means that we are drowning in waste. Yeah? For looking at delivering products for our customers, those products, the time it takes for us to deliver them, 95% of the time, of that time it takes, sometimes you have products that have been sitting in a queue for 3 years before someone picks it up and does a bit of work on it. Yeah? Those products they are just not being worked on, accumulating dust in some ways, and not delivering value. We put all our efforts all the time in trying to say, hey, we need to work better. We need to work faster. We need to estimate better. Yeah? We need to improve the way, we blame the people doing the work. The elephant in the room is the time that it takes when no one is working on it. Is the waste. Yeah? And waste are things like, yeah?
Sorry, does that not get offset with the 5% that we actually get done for the important things and maybe half the crop that never got worked on?
I can't hear you very well, can you say?
Does that not feed into like prioritization? Like the 5% that is getting done are the important things that were worthwhile doing. Half the stuff that never got done, thank God we never did it because it would have been a waste of effort.
Well, sometimes if things are not done, you should throw it away. But the problem is that if you look at, you may be prioritizing something, yeah? But sometimes even by the time you prioritize into development, for example, it may have already been a long time through some pipeline. Then we might have the situation that, you might do in development and then it has to wait for some testing, which happens very often, as an example, yeah? Or we have all this rework on things, like we didn't really we started coding, but we didn't have the right requirements, yeah? All that adds to time, yeah? I mean, again, prioritization is a very important thing. The problem is that when you have, I was working with one university that had 15 technical people. That was developers and UX and architects and testers. How many projects were they trying to do? Give me a crazy figure. How many projects should a team of 15 people do? I would say perhaps 2 or 3 projects max. They had 95 projects on the go. It's an average of 5 substantial projects per person. Yeah. Then the management called us and said, we need to fix those developers. I was like, that's not the problem with the developers. There's no way they can do any work when they're trying to do all 95 projects. Of course, nothing happens. Because before they can complete anything, something else comes in. Yeah? And that keeps adding to the timeline of each one of those projects. How long it takes to do each one of those projects, to the point that we never finish them. Yeah? Have I answered your question? More or less?
No, I agree with the statistics. I feel like that's a bit skewed. No, it's probably more like 20% than 5% because of the amount of work that doesn't get wasted.
In your environment might be as well. I mean, this is the data that has been published by some people. Yeah. So I'm using that. Different environments will have a slightly different. The important thing is measuring it, understanding it. So you had a question?
I was just going to. That sounds familiar with my team. How do you fix that?
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. Okay, go.
I was going to ask just how do you fix that problem? Because my team of 9 had not 95, but it's close to that many things.
Yeah.
New things coming in all the time.
Yeah.
And business demand is business demand.
Yeah.
They need it yesterday.
Yeah, well, so what we will typically say, so do you hear the question was, how do you fix something like that? Yeah. It's not easy. Yeah. Sometimes we have to be able, I mean, I could go into a whole conversation, focus on value. Make sure, I mean, for example, if we use Kanban and lean thinking, Agile as well does, is to say, well, you need to do less, focus on the first principle of the manifesto says, deliver as soon as possible, as frequently as possible, maximizing on value to the customer. I'm not using the exact words, yeah? So if we understand the value that we're trying to generate, then we have to say, well, limit the amount of work that you're trying to do. Do less to deliver more and to deliver early. So it's a very difficult conversation, and I can understand the business has pressures.
Yeah.
But the thing is that if we cannot help them decide these things, it will be forever. Most of the times the problems that we have are not at the technical teams, it's at the business management. That's what we talk. That's what we're saying. Business agility and how introducing Agile in that business context is a real challenge.
Yeah. So we were a Scrum team, we're a Kanban team to address that problem. But the problem that we find is we deliver early, but we don't deliver to the full quality. So we build a technical debt that we can never manage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's something that you have. I mean, there is no easy solution, but you have to avoid that as well. Yeah, because if you want to, I mean, the same thing that I'm going to give you answers that sound just so simple, but obviously I know how difficult it is. Yeah, but the idea is that obviously if we are delivering and we are compromising on whatever quality we need to do, then we have the rework. That's why we end up having lots of red even when we are doing development, because if we are fixing the technical debt, that effectively is an evidence of poor quality of what we've done before. We are not being able to focus on the good things. And actually the customer experience probably is not good either. So it's compromising our ability to materialize that value. Yeah? There is lots of conversation we can do about that, but yes.
Hi, but surely this is not a problem at the team level. The problem is the whole organization acts as a push system, right? So you keep pushing things onto the team, like you said, 10 projects to one person or whatever it might be. So don't you think the education piece needs to happen at the portfolio level? And before that, actually, when they're assessing what is the value that we want to deliver, what is value to us, that's where you need to catch it and start managing it from that level, I think. I don't think working on the team level, and just doing a Kanban system at the team level is going to solve anything.
I completely agree. I mean, and that's one of the things why many times when we do agile transformations, it's okay in some ways to start from the team. I can see that as a possible, that might be where you start, but if we cannot move that beyond the teams, if we cannot move into basically all the different interfaces that teams have, then that's why many times we might achieve some level of agility, and over time it just dies. Yeah, because it's not sustainable if we are not a part of the organization. I mean, usually I talk about that agile. You do the A of agile, and you have the whole organization, and you say, where is agile in this organization? And in some big organizations, it's just a little dot. Yeah, that A of agility in an organization that is not agile is an anomaly for the organization. It doesn't matter how good it may become. Yeah, it may be seen as something strange and attacked, and that's why many times it does disappear. So our job many times is to say, I mean, it's good things I'm going to say later, is how do we expand agile beyond the teams into the organization? Yeah. So we are agreeing. One question there, and then I need to continue.
So maybe the reasons for the inefficiency are regulated.
There's a microphone coming.
Dave Massell. I'm thinking really of a DevOps scenario, but I can understand people saying compared to DevOps, you're not efficient, you're not agile. But perhaps there's good reason why you might have shadow organisations, latency, regulated requirements, all these standards that you have to meet in the financial industry. So it's the cost of doing business. And that isn't a true measure of inefficiency. It's the cost of doing business.
Yes. Yes, there are things that you have to do that might take time, and if you are in a regulated environment, I obviously know that you have to do it. I work in banks and I work in education. But many times what we are not challenging is that what we are doing, is it as efficient as possible? I've been in a bank where the approval process had a 2-year delay.
Yeah, but your challenge in a bank, because that's the example I'm thinking of, is to demonstrate to the regulators, to people that own the standards and write the laws, that your footloose process, I've been careful not to use the A word, is suitable to meet those requirements.
Okay, I don't disagree with that. So the thing is, I think we are agreeing. We need to improve the way we are doing it. So this thing about the regulated environment will create delays in our capacity to deliver. Yeah, but we tend to focus on how we're doing things rather than all these things that we create. So what I would say there is things like what creates all those delays and all this inefficiency is things like, I call distance. Distance, it might be things like time zone differences. It might be distance between my organization and things like the regulators. It might be distance between management and the teams. Yeah. It might be distance in language. If you're in multiple language and time zones and things like that. It might be distance in mindsets. You might be an agile organization. I was in one team that the team was becoming very agile, and the language, the rest of the organization did not understand at all what they were saying. And the mindset, the way we reacted to the way the problems that the company had was very different than the rest of the organization. So we have to be aware of things like that. That's what I call that distance. Waiting is one of the biggest obvious delays and causes of inefficiency. Projects or features or pieces of work that are just there waiting for someone to pick it up and do the work. Handovers is an obvious cause of delay and waste. Yeah, handover between teams and between people. Task switching is an evil thing to do. Multitasking, don't do it. It actually makes us more, it actually affects our cognitive capacity really bad. High utilization. Most organizations value or they think about we must be busy all the time as a staff. Who gets given stretch goals all the time? Give me 110%. Yeah? And the other situations with high utilization that if anything changes, the only option is to not deliver what we have set out. When something unexpected happens, we have no room to deliver. Yeah? So high utilization is what we call many times the enemy of good business flow. Leave a little bit of space so that when things happen, which they do all the time, we can react to those. And the last one is defects. We're talking about we're delivering things with technical debt, then we spend all our time fixing things which had problems. Yeah? So those are things that contribute to that inefficiency. So going to why, then I think that Agile, it's many times we start doing Agile just because, sometimes it's just popular thing. Someone heard in the, the boss heard in the bar that someone else is doing Agile, so I must do it as well. So what we don't do many times is going back to why. Yeah, and trying to understand how, Agile or those practices help. How many of you recognize this? Yeah, is the 4 values of the Agile Manifesto. There is the 12 principles that many times we don't ever show. I don't show them now because there is no space to do that. How many of you recognize this? This sentence is actually, to me and to many of us, the most important part of the manifesto. But we don't use it. We show the values. Yeah? But much more important is the sentence. We say we are uncovering. It's a discovery. We don't know yet if this is the right thing or not. We don't know whether we have the right way. We are uncovering better ways of developing software. I wish to cross that out and say better ways of working. That's okay. By doing it and helping others doing it. So this one is talking about we are discovering things and we need to discover them by doing it. That is extremely powerful thing. It's saying, and it's very well adapted to the kind of complex environments where we work. Yeah? It's too complex to plan things. It's too complex to be predeterministic. Yeah? We need to let our knowledge and our experience and our ways of doing things emerge with us. We need to learn. Okay? These values so far have worked really well for us. But they might change over time. This is the current snapshot of what the Agile community has come up with. Follow them, they're great. Apply them. But we also probably we need to see how well we can adapt to them in the company. And we have delivered things. When we do Agile, many times when you ask the boss, why are we doing Agile? They will say, because we want to do things faster and cheaper, with less staff and all the stuff, yeah? We are delivering things cheaper, and we are delivering things faster. There is metrics for that already, evidence and analysis. But why we are doing cheaper and faster is not because suddenly a developer can go much faster. Yeah, coding much faster. We are delivering a lot of things cheaper and faster because we are avoiding the zombie project. We are hopefully concentrating in delivering maximum value, finding the value. And if we find something that is not that useful, either stop or pivot, change. But we're always looking for that. If we look for that, then the projects for that, useful part, then the projects will be cheaper and faster to deliver. Yeah? We can achieve more business agility. So if I go back to what's the organization, yeah? A traditional organization, which is where most of us start, we'll look, if we're doing waterfall, we may have things like doing requirements, a group that does analysis, architecture, development test, ops, and stuff like that. Where do you think, where would you say the Agile typically has started? More of the technical teams? So we may say that a development team decides like, hey, let's go Agile. Yeah? What we effectively have done to the organization is said, for better or worse, this organization was capable of transforming some ideas into deliverables. By doing Agile, we can potentially break that flow in the organization, that mindset, that way of thinking, when we start speaking different language. So we can create almost an anomaly there for the rest of the organization. A good Agile team will not just be development, okay? You will do testing, you will have architecture, BAs, PL, product owners, and so on. But if it was just a development as an illustration, what we're doing with Agile many times is to create something different inside, something that breaks the norm. Okay? The problem with that is that change can be very, very difficult. And in order to change, if we want to go from waterfall, say, to an Agile environment, we're going to get a lot worse before we get better. How many teams have been doing Agile Scrum, for example, for 3 months, and the sprints are not working, we are not delivering, there is some problems here and there. Do you find that, have you seen that before? Yeah? Okay. What's happening is that they are learning. It takes time. We change in order to improve our performance. But if this is the way we have done it, doing it all the time, if this is our comfort zone, our expert zone, by trying to do something different, we initially have to make ourselves worse. That's called learning. Yeah? If I've always kicked the ball with the right foot, and I want to do with the left foot, I'm going to be atrocious at it. The problem sometimes is that that time it takes to even see the benefits, yeah, it's much longer than the time, the patience the company has for that poor performance. Did that make sense? We try to do big changes, we try to do too much of it, it takes a long time, and our patience runs out. Yeah? That's why many times someone around here quits, probably the Agile champion in the organization quits, or someone quits and says, Agile did not work for us. Yeah? And then someone else goes and says, okay, we're going to go and do what we used to do before. We're going to go back to our previous, method, or whatever it was. What's going to happen now? It's going to go down again, because this is the current way of working. To go back there, that's now our new desired state. So it's going to go back down again. And then it doesn't work. And then someone says, we're going to do Agile Transformation version 2. But this time we're going to do it right. And once again, the same problem. Yeah? So there are some organizations that are on a downward trend of change and change and change and change. Yeah? And 80% of the change programs fail. Yeah? Many times because we try to do too much. So to just put a picture, which I think is great, it says, critical error, try doing Agile instead of being Agile. We're going to try to revert it. It doesn't happen. What happens many times is that because we don't go into why, we just do the easy part, which is give people new job titles, change the hierarchies, change the processes. Yeah, we might buy Jira and we have the tools and so on. Yeah, we do that, but we don't touch on this invisible part, which is called the culture. The culture is the result of the behaviors, the mindset, the language, the taboos, the fears, the aspirations of all these things. Agile is a mindset. Agile is there, needs to touch on this. We need to interiorize the way we think. Yeah. And if we just change those practices and tools and job titles, we create a break in the organization. We create tensions in the organization. How many of you are in Agile environments and people still say resources? Oh, it's people, no resources. Yeah? If we treat people like resources, that is fundamental, that's a fundamental mindset thing. I've seen the standards when there is someone going, what do you do, what do you do, what do you do, what do you do, what do you do? That's as well as you are doing waterfall or traditional environment. That's not, that's not Agile thinking and so on. Okay, so To understand this, I mean, we need to understand our business cultures. We've got a guy called William Schneider talked about that we have 4 kind of like cultures. If a culture that is called control, what that culture values is culture. They define as how do we succeed here? What do we do to succeed here? If we are in that culture control, we say we succeed by getting and keeping control. So the things that the organization will value is things like standards, hierarchies, regulations, stability, order, predictability, and so on. If we are in the collaboration culture, we said we succeed by working together. So the things that we will have around there will be things like, you will hear things about trust and teams and people and diversity and partnerships and so on. Another culture he has is the culture we call cultivation, which says we succeed by growing people and fulfilling our vision. Much more aspirational there, okay? So the things that you will see there will be talk about growth, dedication, you know, letting things evolve, purpose, faith. You know, that environment, you will hear those things. And the last one is the one of competence, which is we succeed by being the best. So again, you will have things about being the best, to have achievement, professionalism, expertise, efficiency, and so on. So when you look at your organization, there will be a dominant culture that drives the mindset of your organization, okay? And there might be pockets of the other cultures, but those are there serving the dominant culture, okay? Which culture do you think is the dominant in most traditional organizations? Control. Yeah, that we call it command and control. Okay, if we map the Agile manifesto values and principles to those cultures, which ones sound more Agile friendly? Collaboration. How many people think collaboration? A few, most of you. How many people think cultivation? Quite a few of you. Control? No, not many. Okay, competence? Some. Okay. When you map them, Michael Sahota has a really, really good free book. You can download it from InfoQ, a guy called Michael Sahota. Said the Agile maps, when the values and the principles map to collaboration and cultivation. A bit of competence, a bit of control, yeah, but the vast majority is in collaboration and cultivation. So if the organization is mostly in control, and we want to introduce Agile or agility, we're effectively talking about moving the culture of organization, the mindset, the way we believe, the way we value things, the way we see things and how we react from one whole domain to another one. It's not easy. Yeah? So this journey of agility, this journey towards business agility is basically how do we get step by step towards something that we think is better. It's going to be a slow process. It's going to take time. Okay? So if we go back to this organizational start, doing Agile will probably be expanding as much as we can, influencing the traditional side of the organization, not creating those barriers that we had before, and then little by little going deeper and deeper in agility. Yeah? So it's many times we might have the teams, but it's how do we help the people that our stakeholders to understand the value of agility. It's for us to see how can we help you look better, be more successful. Yeah? How we can do something that makes you be part of this movement with us. So rather than having that big change that we do Agile ways. We do bit by bit. We'll say, we are here today. Can we identify something that could be better? Small bit if we can. Do that. See where we are. Yeah? Identify the next one, do it, and little by little get better at what we do. This is what we call continuous improvement. This is what we do retrospectives. This is what we're trying to have continuous activities to get ourselves doing better. Okay? So, for me, essential enablers for agility most of the time is doing these improvements through an evolutionary process rather than a big revolution. Yeah? The thing about someone saying, we are going to go Scrum tomorrow or Safe tomorrow or Kanban tomorrow, that's not the aim. The aim is to get how we can get better bit by bit. It's about people and culture. We have to make sure that people believe in what we're doing. They understand the purpose of it. They understand why. We understand why. That we make it a shared initiative, a shared belief, okay? So that it becomes a collective journey. I think that it also depends on having someone or some people in the organization that can have experience to help us do it. Yeah? There's some organizations that, there's just not enough experience. So when we hit the problems, the barriers, no one knows how to fix those, how to help the organization go forward. And the last one is education and learning. It's really difficult to improve and to assess what we're trying to do if we don't have enough understanding and knowledge about how to do things better. Okay? Which I've seen lots of organizations where there is only, I said the word before, the Agile champion that knows everything about Agile. That person leaves, and the rest of the people are, don't know. What do I do now? Yeah? So how do we make sure that this is more and more people are capable of doing all these improvements? I stop there. Thank you very much. How did I do for time? Any questions or thoughts? No? Time to go? Okay. One thing that I will say is, as BCS as well, and Learning Connections is part of it, we have the conference, London Lean Kanban Days, which is a lot of what we took in terms of continuous improvement and improving business organizations, the flow, the efficiency, and so on. And again, we also have the BCS. If you understand the basic fundamentals of Agile, things like the BCS foundations stuff.
Before you all go, my colleague's going to hand out some feedback slips as well. So we would like to take feedback for our sessions. What we'll do is we'll collect all the slips in at the end and just pick out a winner. And we have a signed copy of Succeeding with Agile signed by Mike Cohen himself to give away, and a few other prizes as well. So, so that's going on as we speak. I'll also add, if you're interested in learning more about this topic as well, Jose teaches, BCS Foundations in Agile. There are some cards scattered around the place, so you're more than welcome to speak to me or Jose if you're interested in that. But what I'll do is I'll do a mail out afterwards to all our respective meetup groups and let you know about that as well. Okay, so we're still officially in a Q&A stage, so if anyone does want to ask a question, you're more than welcome to. Yeah, go for it.
Thank you. That was really enlightening, actually. Thanks for the talk. I enjoyed it. How would you... So Agile is not just about software development. Business agility is not just about technology. Mm-hmm. There are many factors within the organization that have constraining impacts on technology and software development, for example.
Yes.
I talk about things like setting financial budgets, and I talk about things like HR mm-hmm. and accounting.
Yes.
So do you have any recommendations or maybe pointers as to how to address those particular areas?
God, that could be a very long... Is it back?
Good question.
Yes, it's a very good question. I agree completely. Usually one thing that I always say is that if someone thinks that the organization is agile already, and the budgets, the HR, the recruitment and incentives and so on, and the whole operational side of the organization, if those sides are not doing agile, the organization is not doing agile yet. And it will die. Because we need to change budgets, we need to change the way we do things. So there are very interesting things happening out there, like beyond budgeting. Have you heard of it? Yes. As an example, I mean, one company that I'm doing coaching with at the moment, only just a couple of weeks ago, they had to put a new budget, and typically they will have done I'm going to put a round figure, yeah, £1 million budget. And you go into this, I mean, £1 million for many companies is a lot of money, yeah? So then you go into all this kind of like risk aversion situation, like if I'm going to give you money and it's going to take me 6 months to 1 year to see the results, I need proper guidance, proper governance, risk management, all those things. What they did differently this time is said, look, give us £10,000, we're going to do a POC and see what happens with this. We're going to see that. It worked really well. And then when they started to do the business case, they said, okay, normally we would have asked for £1 million, but give us 50,000 so that we do the next more important tranche. And then they delivered that. And, you know, so they started to change that by making, it might work in some organizations, in others not. This is a very well-known brand. But they started to make the bet of investing that money a lot safer for the organization. A £1 million bet can be very scary for most managers and most financial people. A £50,000 bet was a lot more tolerable. And there was the promise that within 6 weeks there was going to be something to evaluate that. Yeah. So that was part of example, but you need a track record to do it. I mean, it's very difficult to go and say to someone, hey, trust me, I'm going to do this thing differently. You need to build that track record. Is that? Yeah. Yeah. The difficult thing is having those conversations, sometimes even having the access to talk to those people. But yeah. Was there another? I saw you.
What's your advice on handling traditionalists who, the moment you try and mention the word agile or even talk about business agility, start beating the war drums that you're attacking the organizational culture?
Yes. One of the things, and probably I broke my own rule here tonight. Fight Club, the number one rule of Agile is not talk about Agile. Because Agile becomes a keyword that means nothing for a lot of people. Okay, so what I think there's always going to be people. There's going to be someone that is potentially being threatened or feels threatened by change. Forget about Agile. Yeah. So it's our job to understand many times about what will make them benefit from this change. Even have a conversation saying, how successful are we right now? Because if they are successful, if it's working for them or the group, then maybe there are no conditions to try to do that change. If there is no acceptance that they want to get better, why try? Yeah? But then to me, it's about how we can do something that makes them feel better so that their mind goes little by little. Make safe experiments with them. And just try to move them little by little, yeah? I don't think that it's ever going to work to say, you're going to do Agile because the CEO says so. Yeah? You're going to get that position. And it's like, yeah, over my dead body. Yeah? So it's how we help them by doing it. What we said in the manifesto, we need to do it with them. Yeah?
Thank you.
Okay. Microphone here.
Okay, any more questions?
One more here.
Gentleman at the front.
I don't think there is a recipe for it, yeah? I cannot just give a specific, like, this is what I'll do exactly, because people are going to react differently. We are complex.
Recipe, that's why I was here.
Hey!
Any advice for, I was involved with a situation where a small company was taken over or bought by a large company.
Okay.
And overnight, we were expected to go from waterfall to agile. Lot of resistance from developers and so on. Mm-hmm. So any advice in that sort of situation?
I think, to me, the problem is that overnight, you are facing immediately, sorry, I find it, you are immediately facing that. Usually when someone gets bought, it's the other way around. They're agile and then they're told not to be agile. But to be waterfall and then suddenly having to become agile. Someone said, okay, there are a couple of things that I'm just thinking aloud. What we talked about in the manifesto many times, it says it's about the people, it's about discovering things, it's about doing it. Someone dictating we are going agile over someone else, it's in itself a violation of the agile principles and thinking. Yeah, to force someone to do agile, you are violating the ethos of agile. Yeah. So what they need to do is what I would do is to make it an invite to do things different. Try to see how we can do different. I was working in public sector, and one of the things that we tried to do with agile, to try to do a change, we said we are going to try to do an experiment for about 3 months. Who would like to be part of this? And let's see how it goes. If it goes well, we continue. If it doesn't work well, then we'll see what we do. Then we'll learn from it. But I try to make it a safe to fail experiment rather than just force it. There is a guy called Peter Senge, I think. The quote that he says is like, we don't mind change. None of us mind change. We are changing all the time. What we do resist is being forced to change. Yeah? And that creates the problem. So I think my only advice on that thing will be try to go small, try to make it an invited, make it a collective journey, make it part of all of us. Really say why, because, you know, be agile. Why? Why should I be agile? What's the ultimate goal that we are doing? Yeah, because just being agile for the sake of being agile, that doesn't give me much as a business. Yeah. So it's a lot of communications, a lot of persuasion there to be done, and that's probably the most precise answer that I will give. Someone might have a different answer. I'm inviting other people to share. Okay? No? There's a question over there.
Sorry, did you have a question?
Oh yeah, okay. Next to you.
How do you, when you bring in Agile, there are people who are in traditional roles,
Yes.
such as you might have a project manager or delivery manager, and then you bring the Agile model in that has the Scrum Master. Is there a role for delivery or the normal manager within Scrum?
Yes, yes, there is. So I think what you're seeing there is probably part of the conflict that we have in, and it's again one of these things. Yeah. Today we are traditional. Yeah. And sometimes what I've seen is that we throw the baby with the water, and we say we're going to do Scrum. Well, okay, it takes time. So, I've seen organizations say we're going to do a Scrum, so all the project managers are fired, and a year later they're wondering what happened. Yeah, it's a journey. I mean, for example, if we go to Kanban will say, understand what you're doing today, and pursue that change in an evolutionary way, step by step. If the roles need to change over time, then change them. But over time, when the need arises, don't try to create, because, I mean, even if you say you're a project manager today and we're going to have a Scrum Master over there, or a Scrum Master, if it's someone in the organization that suddenly has a new job, it takes a long time to develop those skills. Yeah? And you might still be working in an organization that does projects. So if you're still running projects, having a project manager is useful. To do that, what Michael Sajota talks about, the interfaces between your agile part and your non-agile part. It's almost like a bit of like, double personality, split personality. But how do you marry the needs of those two parts of the organization, your agile organization, your non-agile part? Yeah. If you're running projects, you will probably need a project manager. Yeah. Over time, you might stop doing projects. Then you might not need a project manager. You might need something else. Yeah. So I think that is a mistake many times to go and force that change. I mean, that change is what we had there. That change has been changing the roles, changing the processes, changing the organizational chart, but not changing that. To me, yeah, I've seen that quite a few times. Yeah? Okay.
We got this one. It's like.
Oh, something from.
Yeah.
Okay, you need to read it because I don't understand what it says here. Blah, blah, blah.
Okay. 1 second. Right. So.
This is a first, thank you. For me.
So, can an organization start the steep change to Agile by writing user stories instead of detailed business requirements?
Can they start the change by doing user stories instead of business requirements?
Yeah.
I'm going to go back again to what just said. Writing user stories is a technique that takes, again, quite a bit of practice to do it well. So if initially we're used to do requirements, we might have to try to do requirements in a different. Actually, the word requirements is slightly wrong. We can try to start writing user stories or try to write. We probably will write requirements in a user story format. Yeah, the user story is something quite different in how we express the business need than a requirement. So it will take time to develop those skills. And one of the key aspects of it, to me, is that many times requirements are written in a very predeterministic way. It's almost saying, I know what I want. Yeah? However, in our complex world of IT, we really don't know what we want. We only know what we want when we interact with the product. That's why requirements always change. Yeah? So one of the key changes in mindset between requirements and user stories and so on is not about the technique, but it's about the fact that we go from doing requirements to doing something more, which is more of an experiment and hypothesis, and we are expecting that thing, yeah, and how we write it. So, sorry, what I'm trying to say is that yes, we can try to do user story, the technique, but there is quite a bit of journey for us to change from requirements to user stories. Okay, there was a question at the back.
Okay, so we'll do two more then.
Two more then, okay.
Right. So my organization just started like converting all the teams into Agile, and they're following all the rituals of Agile Scrum.
The rituals,
but,
okay.
Yeah, the rituals, yeah. But I mean, the mindset is still waterfall. So yes. I mean, how would you suggest to turn this around? Because I feel that the mindset is the most important thing in Agile.
Yes.
But and if you work in waterfall in Agile, that's the worst possible implementation of Agile that.
So if you have to do an Agile implementation, I go again, why are you doing it? Yeah, I'm not saying that we shouldn't do it. I think we must do it. It's a bit heavy saying must, but the sort of work that we have, something like Agile, looking for agility is almost a must for us, okay? But I will go to these sort of enablers. Yeah, are we making sure that there is, for example, the team at the beginning, if it's a waterfall team with people that have been all their experience in waterfall, is there someone there that can help them do that transition? And it could take a team doing Agile, just a team, could easily take 3 to 6 months to become reliable in some ways. An organization could take a long time. Yeah, are they getting enough the background knowledge and the background understanding of why Agile does things the way we do it? Yeah, we talk about stand-ups, and most of us will tell us what the mechanics of a stand-up is. Yeah, but how many of us really understand why the stand-up is there for? The why. Why do we do retrospectives? Or why do we do, why do we do cadence? Why do, all these whys, the team, many times we don't have them. And it's fundamentally to enable all that team to really understand why they're doing this so that they can start doing the transition. We're going to have to do some sort of J curve, some sort of learning path. Let's equip ourselves with the best knowledge to do it and have the support to do it. That's the best thing I can say. Yeah. So, and make it part of that collective journey. I mean, we talk about, Dan talks about the fact that we need to have the autonomy, the mastery, and the purpose, yeah? understand why we're doing it, autonomously be able to do it on our own, and the master is understanding, having the understanding of why we're trying to do those things. Okay, good. Was there one more?
Yep, last question.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've got a question which is kind of an extension to many of the questions so far, and that's regarding the resistance to change.
Yes.
Particularly when you've got a person that's essentially, based on their skills and experience so far, they've got a certain position in the company, therefore their skills and their current position has got value to them. And if you're asking that person to change and almost abandon some of those skills, it's how do you translate that larger benefit for the organisation to a personal benefit to them?
Yeah.
Have you got any advice around that?
This is, for me, is the, if you look at the stakeholder management, yeah, this is a person that has probably quite a bit power in that way, because they have to be doing their part of that work, but they might not have the interest. So the thing for me about that person is trying to have an understanding of their fears, their needs, their aspirations, and trying to build that coalition with this person to say, how can we make this journey also something that benefits you? I've been many times in groups that we're trying to do agile training. You know, someone comes and you start with the class and say, who is here because you wanted to be here? And maybe half of the class is like, I've been told to come here. I don't even want to be here. Yeah. So one of the challenges for us is to build that connection with those people and say, like, okay, what is in it for you? How can we make your life better? The reality is that most of us are going to be overburdened with work, with stress, lots of demand, job safety, things like that. Yeah. If we can connect the change to making some of those things better for them, you're on the money. But we have to have the time to do that. And we have to have the skills to do that as well. Yeah? Rather than this, what I said before, this edict that we are going to do agile because it's going to be better for you. Well, I don't see it. So we have to, it's so much about having that connection. I always say for me, when I do the coaching and when I've been a team manager, the most important activity of every day is having the coffee or the water cooler conversations with the team. When you're trying to say, you know, it's that connecting with the people and say, is it working for you? How can we do it for you? How can it work for you? Yeah. Likewise, when you have a team and you have a manager there that is pissing you off, rather than fighting, it's like, how can we help you have a better world as well? So it's connecting to their internal needs. I have this Machiavelli thing. Yeah. How do you get someone to change? Or how do you get someone to believe something that you want them to believe? You make them think that it's their own idea. Yeah? So we need to get people to interiorize that themselves, but that needs a connection, that needs an empathic, understanding them. Cool? So you were saying?
Yeah, brilliant, thank you, yeah. Part of what I'm hearing is that you basically form a relationship, you make it clear that you're on their side, and that actually you stop them seeing you as a threat, and Agile as a threat to them personally.
With the threat, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Make it part of their benefit, yeah, absolutely.
First rule of Fight Club, yeah. Don't talk about Agile.
Cheers.